Hi everyone, it's Tom Mackie here. Now, what an interesting year we've had in 2018. We've got so much new equipment on the market, so much to think about. And I've been now using my D850 for 8 months now, and across 7 different countries, ranging from minus 35 degrees Celsius to plus 35. So I've put it through its paces. So I'm going to do a little bit of a follow-up on this, but also we want to consider, is it worth changing? So let's start with a little bit of an update with my experiences using this camera. But first, if you haven't seen the earlier video that we did on this earlier in the year, have a look here. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all the key points that I covered in the previous video, but I'm going to cover some of the ones that we had a lot of comments about. And starting off with the display. The pop-out display I've found has been really useful for me. I've been shooting where I've got the camera straight up and straight down. It's great having that facility. I almost forget that it's there. But annoyingly, they had the chance to actually correct this on the new Z7 or the Z7 if you're looking from America. But they didn't. They kept it. If you're shooting in vertical, you cannot adjust this, which is really annoying. And I think they really missed the trick on that one. Now, next, now that they've changed the buttons a little bit. So I remember, I found that the ISO button was a little bit niggly placing it over here as opposed to on the dial. It's what you get used to. And I have found that I'm getting used to it having it right there. Same thing with having the mode button on the dial. So despite the initial concerns, the more you use this, the more you become accustomed to where the controls are. Okay, next up are 3 little considerations: the dust, the new card slot, and the battery life. So starting off with the dust issue that I mentioned, I was getting a lot of dust and I couldn't understand it. And from all the comments that we were getting from everybody, they couldn't understand why I was getting so much dust either. Well, I do owe Nikon a little bit of an apology because I figured out what it was. And here's a good tip for you. Do you own one of those little bomb-like blower brushes? Where you lock your mirror up and just blow out the sensor a little bit? Well, I've got one of those too. I've had it for years. I've been using it all the time. So what I found though is that the inside of this thing deteriorates and you end up blowing a lot of stuff inside on your sensor. And this is what I was doing. So if you have one of those old blower brushes, throw it away and buy a new one, and then that'll solve all your problems. Okay, next up, we have the card slot. Now, they've maintained 2 card slots on here, which is great. You've got the SD card slot and the XQD card slot. Now, I went out and bought myself a 64 gig. The annoying thing is that all those compact flash cards that I invested a lot of money in are now obsolete. So I didn't like that. But this 64 gig card lasts ages. And I find that, I can do fairly, pretty much a week shoot on this thing, depending on how much I'm shooting. But that's not a huge consideration. But the only other niggly thing about this is you always have to have that card reader with you. Next thing, the battery life. Okay, I did make some alterations to the battery, or the menu system in here. I've shut off the Wi-Fi, I've shut off all the things that would drain the battery, and that does seem to make a big difference. So, and I've found now using the battery is pretty much like the D810. I can use that quite a long time without having to change batteries. In the last video, I said I liked the focus stacking feature on here. No, I love it. This is just fantastic. I've been using it all the time. It works extremely well. So it saves a lot of time in doing my focus stacking procedure. All in all, it's been a fantastic 8 months using this camera. I've worked out some of the issues and the niggles using it, but like everything, it's what you get used to when you're using it. And I still think this is probably the best camera for landscape photography. But what about some of the new boys on the block? Let's talk about the new Z7 or the Z7 if you're in America. Is it worth changing to? For me, no. I'm sticking with this. So why here, you ask? For me, for a landscape photographer, I need a big gain rather than a marginal gain. And with the 850 versus the Z7, I think it's just marginal. Now, with the 810 going to the 850, that was a big leap. So that was worth upgrading to. So let's cover some of the issues with the Z7. First and foremost, with any camera, it's the image quality that's paramount. And with these two cameras, there's nothing in it. So, okay, so let's scratch that. There's no reason to upgrade for that. Next thing is the weight. Okay, for a landscape photographer, this is also a big consideration. I like to have as light as possible equipment to carry around. Okay, so the Z7 is lighter. It's 36%. The body alone is 36% lighter than this. It's not huge, but when you consider, okay, they've got a small amount of lenses that they've made for the new mount. So if you're going to use your old lenses on there, you're going to need the adapter. The adapter then will add some more weight to it. It swings around about. You're going to be back to the same sort of weight that you're using now with the 850. So I would say give it a couple of years. Wait until they come out with a good line of lenses. These lenses are going to be bigger. Because the mount's bigger, it's going to allow more light to get in. So they're going to be building bigger lenses to accommodate that. So again, we get back to more weight, smaller body, but bigger lenses. Now, I've seen this on other manufacturers too, on the mirrorless cameras. It's great. You've got this nice little body, but a huge lens on the end of it. So we're not saving a great deal in weight. So beyond the weight, the only other two considerations that I would look at would be the electronic viewfinder and the in-body stabilization. Now, the electronic viewfinder, I don't really like using those. I don't really care for them. You know, I'm going to use my live view all the time if I'm going to do that. So the other thing is the in-body stabilization. That's a great thing. But for me, landscape photographer, this is on a tripod all the time. So it's not a huge advancement for me to switch. Okay, so there's not going to be a mass exodus from the D850 owners to the Z7, in my opinion. But if you're lower down on the model range, you do have 3.5 grand laying around behind the couch. Okay, you've got a good dilemma. On one hand, you can plonk out for the shiny new Z7 and future-proof yourself with the new range of lenses that they'll be coming out with in the future, or you can go with the tried and tested model, the 850 with a nice range of lenses. I know where I'd put my money. So I hope this has been a useful video to you and it's clarified some of the issues that you may be pondering whether to actually upgrade or not. As ever, please do let us know if you've got any other questions you need answering. If you want to see any more videos about anything in particular about the D850, let us know in the comments. And make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. See you again soon. Bye.